Hey, what is going on, everybody? Boilon here, back for another video on Marvel Strike Force. What if I told you that running Chaotic Storm normal is actually better than Chaotic Storm Omega? This is something that I have been made aware of over the last 24 hours or so. Something that I want to share with you guys, something I want to break down the math and tell you why, for the vast majority of players, it's going to be better to do Chaotic Storm normal. You're going to come away with more rewards and more resources than if you were doing Omega. It sounds absolutely baffling, and I didn't think that this would be the case. But until the full Vigilantes team is assembled and people have access to them and have them geared up and such, where you can not have to sack these bio and skill note or skill first and then bio, it's going to make more sense to do normal because it's going to be a lot easier to get rewards. Getting up to 70% is very challenging for most alliances right now, especially when these sacks are included. But by doing normal, you don't have to do these things, and we can still get more rewards. We're going to talk about that. So let's boil this down. All right, so let's break down the nuances of Chaotic Storm Normal. Why would you want to do it, right? I mean, you get crap all in the actual Alliance reward payouts, but that's not where they are. It's actually on the nodes themselves. But the thing is, and so the major difference between what you're going to get by doing normal and what you're going to get out of doing Omega is that normal is more individual based. It's the rewards are going to be based on how much you play as an individual. So if you're someone who does 10 to 12 nodes a day, you're going to walk away with a lot more rewards than if you were doing Omega D5 at 40%. Now, I do want to say that this is with D5 in mind. So I'm comparing Omega D5 40% with the others. I'll say that my alliance, we got about 45 to 50%, I believe, on Omega. But we're a far cry from 70, and I would imagine a lot of alliances are too, until the full Vigilante team comes out and or the bio raid team, because there's a lot of collective energy wastage on having to sack these nodes. In a lot of cases, it's 20 energy, and then if you don't clear the boss node, you can't fan out. So that's a big problem too. So for people who are doing the single lane stuff, you have to clear that boss node. Otherwise, the rest of you can't fan out to other lanes. Now, normal mode has 4 lanes, one for each player. So that's what's interesting. So I want to share with you guys the rewards on D5 on all of the nodes. Now this is on just the regular standard nodes. You can see here that you get the raid season reward points too. You get 1,200. So I already spoke about this in yesterday's video when we talked about the events and the chaotic storm and stuff, and it's super easy to clear. But you can see the other rewards. So you get 3250 X coins, 130 G20 armory or fragments, and all the other crap, right? Like the stuff that doesn't make a big difference anymore. And why I want to stress this out is because I have this prop here. This is 40% Omega. Okay, so it's 960 Armory G20 orbs. Going back to this, it's 130. So if you did 10 nodes, if you cleared 10 nodes in normal on D5, you would get 1,300, which is approximately like 30. I'd have to bring up the calculator again, but it's over 30%. It's between 30 and 35%, I believe. More that you'll be getting as a result of this. Now, what should you be doing on the chaotic normal raids? Well, when you're going to do as normal, like you're going to do your SAM or whatever, your manual, however you clear your tech, right? I'm going to be doing this from the perspective of the left side. So we're going to do this node 1, node 2, and then we're going to do the boss, right? We're going to go through our own individual lane. If you're doing a normal, choose whatever lane you're going to be running. And then we get through that. And then we're eventually going to get to bio. Now, what I personally recommend is taking one of these middle bio lanes and still funneling one section. So all 4 of you are going to funnel one section, but instead, what you're going to do is you're going to run, it depends on what you want to do. You can either do D2 or D3. Now, here's the difference between the two. So D2 doesn't actually have the mods, which means that you can just sim your Spire, you can sim your Hive Mind or whatever, and you're going to get through this no problem. You just sim it 10 energy, 10 energy, 10 energy, both for all 3 nodes, right? Because you can select that, the boss node as well. What you might be able to do, and I'm not entirely sure because I haven't tested it myself, is doing D3 does bring the debuff back, but the enemies are significantly easier. So I kind of think maybe, just maybe, if you're running G19 100, you might be able to brute force your way through this node. instead of having to dumb down all the way to D2. I'm going to try that here on the video because even you'll get a little bit extra. Now, here's the thing though. Oops, sorry. Is that once you get through this though, you'll all have your own section. So you want to make sure that you're clearing the bio boss node, and then everyone can fan back out to their individual lanes, right? And then you can keep going until you get to a skill where again you're going to want to do the same thing: funnel up through 3 nodes, clear that out, clear the Jean Grey boss node out, and then you funnel out back, fan back out again into the mutant section. So every single person is going to have the 3 tech nodes, the 3 on this side anyways, the 3 mystic nodes, and then the 3 mutant nodes, and then you get your own final boss. That is 10 nodes that you'll have available to you to be able to clear for every normal raid. Now, once again, this is only for the next month or so until the Vigilantes team is at the point where people can just sim those nodes, and that's fine and move on. The main problem, again, is the amount of energy wastage that people are having to spend on the bio section and on the skill section up here. Those are the biggest problems, right? Having to spend 20 energy per node, including the boss. That's 60, at least energy on these nodes is not fun. But let's just do the math anyways. Let's go back to we're over here with the D5, right? So, oh, did it reset? Okay, so yeah, it does reset. You have to like go to a node and then D5. So 130, right? Let's just bust out the calculator. I mean, I don't even know why I did that. So it's 1300, right? 130 times 10 is 1300. But let's do the X coins anyways, which is also 32. But I don't know why I did that. It's just you add a 0, right? That's how it works for 10. So 3250 X coins for 10 nodes, right? At 40%, you're getting 24,000. So it's a fair bit difference, right? 24,000 divided by 32.5, right? I think is what it should have been. So you're getting about 26%. Is it the other way around? I think it's about 33%. Yeah, so it's in that 30 to 35% range for all of the resources above 40%. Again, I don't know how many alliances are actually hitting 70%. I don't think it's that many. Like my alliance in raids typically is a top 500 raid alliance, sometimes even top 300, and we were not getting to 70%. 70% right now in Omega includes quite a, I think, like, because if you're only doing one section in bio and skill, I don't think that's giving you 70%. I think you would need to do 1 to 2 sections in bio and skill and everything else in order to get to 70. I think that's I didn't actually do the math out on that, but I think that's generally how you get to 70%, and that's not easy to do, right? And it takes up a lot of energy. So I think in the meantime, I'm going to show you what I'm going to be doing because I'm hoping that this works as the way that I want it. I kind of struggle sometimes with simming tech, but I've taken my Orcus up to D5. So we're going to be doing D5 tech. I'm just going to show you. I'm going to run it through you so you guys have an example of what I'm talking about here. If the game doesn't lag when I'm trying to open up my nodes. Come on, you can do it, game. Well, that's embarrassingly slow. The server stability has not been super swell. Did my game just crash? Okay, there we go. We finally got to it with some lagging. So I am at 105 with Sentinel, Lady Deathstrike, and Nimrod. My other two are at 100. I'm hoping that this sims this is D5, by the way, so I'm hoping that this sims, as I expect it to do. And then we're going to see if the game doesn't shit itself, because at least on emulator, it does not seem to be running very fast. Tick tock, tick tock. Take a sip of water. I mean, it should clear. I've done this before at 100, and it's 105 should be a bit easier, right? I don't think they're expecting G20 at this point. I just don't think that 105 on maybe Omega Sentinel needs 105. I don't think Scientist Supreme needs 105 though. I don't think that's necessary. This is super slow. Okay, we're gonna come back when it's actually. Come on. I might have to skip the loading crap for node number 2 just to show you. Good lord. Okay, we cleared it. I'm pretty sure I waited an extra 15 seconds. Like it was awful. The loading times were fucking terrible. But anyways, we're gonna move on. We're gonna do node number 2. I'm gonna save you guys the hassle of the loading, and I'll show you at the end when I either clear it or I wipe it. I actually think I waited like 30 seconds for this to load. Absolutely crazy. And I have a good computer, by the way. And there we go. That's node number 2. We're gonna do the same thing. Yeah, actually, so what I do, I'll tell you what I do on this one. I don't actually use tech. I actually bring in my Mystic Raid team, which is Odin, Mephisto, Blade, Oath, and Man Thing, and I sim the first boss node here with Mystic rather than tech. I get better luck with that. That's just my thoughts. And then I'm going to save you guys from the loading and just show what happens when we get to the bio section. All right, and after a lot more loading struggles, still we cleared the boss node, and the reason why this is better than doing Omega also is because you're getting rewarded for even doing the boss nodes, right? So Omega, you don't need to do the bosses because it's not going towards the percentage. But in normal mode, you're getting these rewards, including the extra coins, which is behind my window here. You're getting all of this stuff on every single node, including the boss nodes. So you are being rewarded for clearing those out, which is really nice, opposed to you're not really getting that in Omega, right? So now we're going to move on to the skill section, bio section. And what I want to show you, and this is where I'm not 100% sure about because I haven't tested this quite yet. I know for sure if you go to D2, you are absolutely going to sim this because it's not going to have the debuff. What I'm curious about is, can I brute force through D3? And that way I'm still getting a little bit of stuff. Now, you want to basically have your 1, 2, or however many people to basically spend their energy collectively to get through the bio lane. That way, once you get through here, everyone else can fan back out for the Mystic section, right? They can take their own lane, and that's the same. And then you collapse back into the middle for the skill section. Now, for the purposes of this, because I'm jumping on like literally when the raid started, I'll be the test subject here, so that I'll spend my energy, I suppose, instead. But I want to see, can I do this at D3? Because it's level 90, gear tier 15. The enemies are like pretty weak. I think even with the debuff, frankly, active healing, the speed bar sucks. Does suck. I'll admit that sucks. Because that's a big part of their kit. But I'm wondering, they're not that high powered. I think that the AoE, in fact, would just kill them all. So I'm gonna try. Right? We'll find out. If I wipe on D3, it's gonna be really weird, but we'll find out whether or not this is viable at D3, just so I can get like a little bit of rewards while I'm trying to like get my way through. The whole goal of this is just to spend only 10 energy per node rather than having to go through D5s and sacks and all that stuff. Okay, and it looks like we did brute force the node actually with D3. So even with the debuff, again, we don't get a ton of rewards, unfortunately, this time around because it's not D5. But the whole purpose of this is just to get through the section so we can get to the other ones. Now, I would say personally, if you're someone who helped your lane section clear out one of these bad lanes, let somebody else do skill, right? That's only fair. And I guess that's the only issue, is making energy more equitable to make sure that everyone is getting as close to 10 as possible. And if I didn't make it clear that if you're doing on D5 7 nodes, you're already breaking even compared to the 40% Orcus, 40% Chaos Omega rewards. Anything over 7 nodes cleared is actually getting you more. Now, if you do run 10, that's where you're going to be getting that bonus. So for the purposes of this, we're just going to keep going. I'm assuming, unless the boss goes really sideways. I was also thinking that maybe I could use like Groot, Thor, and Gladiator. I mean, these are really low-powered enemies, but I'm going to keep going with Hive Mind, and we're going to take a look one node at a time just to make sure that mine does sim it. Okay, and we cleared the second node, so that's good news. My only shock would be that I actually think that Hive Mind is a worse team than Spider Society without their mechanics, whereas Spider Society actually functions fairly well. So I doubt there's going to be much of a problem there on that section. The boss node, that's a pretty hefty. No, it should be fine. We're going to do the exact same thing at D3. Make sure that once we clear out this boss node, that anyone that comes up behind me, because I am the first person that's doing the raids right now, can then fan out to the other sections. That's the whole point of why we're clearing all 3 nodes in the bio section, but only 1 lane. This is kind of like the strat that people are currently using for Omega anyways, but now it makes it a lot easier because you don't have to sack, right? It's just 30 energy to get through the bio section instead of 60 or potentially more if you screw up, right? So this is something that makes this part here a little bit easier in my opinion. Now, this one was a touch surprising. Apparently, my Void Knight and Super Skrull bit it here on D3. So, if you guys aren't super confident in this, or if you don't care that much, you could just dumb it down to D2. I mean, the rewards aren't really that significant on the nodes when you're doing D3 anyway. So, if you wanted to do it for safety, just do the boss at D2. You're not missing a whole lot. But the point is that now we're through the bio section, and that my alliance now has access to these nodes, the tech nodes, and all of the mystic nodes. And then once again, we would do the same thing, funneling down one node for skill, but I'm going to let somebody else do that at D2 or D3 just to get it through so that it's more equitable. And so again, why would you want to do Chaotic Storm normal? Let's do like a 180. Let's do a recap of this. It puts the onus more on the individual. So if you're somebody who wants to push, who wants to do 10 to 12 attacks a day, you will get more rewards. That's the whole point of this. Who will get less? Somebody who slacks. A slacker in your alliance maybe does like a couple attacks and that's it. Maybe you were getting more rewards than you deserved. Maybe you were being carried. So those are the kinds of people who are going to get less because they're going to have to then do the difficulty that's more appropriate for them, whether that's D5 for me or D4 for someone else, right? You get to choose in that case. But for those of us who are running difficulty 5 and you do run, your usual like maximum energy per day kind of thing, you are going to come out with about 30 to 35% more rewards across the board. Again, I don't know if they were intended to do it this way, but I find it a bit more simpler because now, because there's no collective responsibility to hit the 40% threshold, this stuff, right? Like we don't need to chase people down. I don't need to like tag my alliance, say, hey, we're close to 40%, whatever, we need to push. Like I don't need to do that anymore because as long as we get through the sections, the single file on bio and skill, and hopefully two different people alternate about clearing those nodes out or something to make it more equitable so there's more energy to go around for everyone else in that section, then people should come out more ahead. Where you might come into problems is if the same person, i.e. me, I'm clearing out bio and skill, and I'm getting less rewards on those 6 nodes, and it gives me less energy to get the real nodes on D5. That's where the problem is, but hopefully you can share that responsibility, and one person isn't clearing all 6 of those crap nodes, right? And that at best, you're spending 2 or 3 nodes per player to clear out those, or you're gonna have to work that out yourself, right? Just make sure that one person isn't carrying that responsibility, or they're not gonna get more than this, right? They might get about the same as this and not more. But realistically, for everyone, for most players, you should get more than this. And again, I don't know if this was intended, but I hope that doing this video doesn't get them to shut down this strategy. But I think this is what I'm going to be employing with my alliance at least until the full Vigilantes team is out. That way I can sim the skill, sim one of the other problem sections, and then that makes it a lot easier. And the total energy cost by running Omega isn't that big of a deal. Because right now, even 40% for some alliances is quite hard to reach. But if you do it doing what I just showed you here today, then a lot more people will be getting more rewards based on how many nodes that you personally can clear. So I do like it this way, actually. I was a bit skeptical at first when it came to the introduction of normal raids, but I kind of get the point. But again, once, Vigilantes, and then once the bio team comes out eventually, and you're getting 70% or higher on the raids, it does make more sense to go back to Omega at that point in time. But for now, we'll be running normal. That's it for now. I hope this video was helpful. Let me know in the comments down below, and I'll see you guys on the next one. And if you like this video, make sure you hit that subscribe button if you haven't already, and you'll be greatly helping out the channel. Have a great day, and I'll see you guys on the next one.